This is the Talkin Bout The Hoosiers podcast, presented by thehoosier.com. Before we jump into this video, pause it right now and go subscribe to the Hoosier.com website, now a part of On3 Sports, for exclusive content covering the Indiana Hoosiers, including exclusive interviews, live recruiting updates, and much more. Make sure to join our community. We really appreciate it.
And Hoosier Nation, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page. We got plenty of more content on here, including more talking about the Hoosiers podcast episodes, recruiting highlights, press conferences, and much, much more. It literally takes 2 seconds. Just do it right now, get it over with, and then go on and let's enjoy this new episode.
Hello and welcome. This is the Talkin Bout The Hoosiers podcast. Zach Batting with you, Colin McMahon as well. Colin, we've got some more breaking news this evening on this Thursday evening. Happy little 5 week to all those that celebrate. Indiana basketball continuing to add to their backcourt. Elon transfer guard Nick Dorn is the most recent commitment Darren DeVries and the staff have landed quickly. Colin, I'm going to come to you first. Just what are your quick initial thoughts on Dorn?
You know, I wasn't expecting a commitment this soon from Dorne. Obviously, we heard that he was visiting earlier this week, and it came as a bit of a surprise because of how many guard commitments Indiana has received. But you can never have too many talented guys, and Nick Dorn is another talented guy from the mid-major ranks. And obviously, shooting has been the emphasis Darren DeVries has focused on in recruiting guys from the portal. Nick Dorn shoots 35% from behind the arc. So obviously you're stacking guys who can shoot the three ball, and you can never have too many shooters. So for Indiana, another solid pickup at the guard position.
You mentioned the loaded guard room. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's quickly dive into the numbers here on Dorn. 15.2 points per game last season at Elon. 3.8 rebounds, just 0.8 assists. He's not exactly a lead ball handler, not a crazy playmaker or anything like that. But the shooting, that's where Dorn kind of excels. And the field goal percentage wasn't good, 37.4% from the field. He's not that efficient from inside the arc, but outside the arc, that's where he excels. You mentioned the 35% three-point percentage, Colin. That was on 8.4 attempts per game last year. Over the course of his career, 2 years so far at the collegiate level for Dorn at Elon, a career 35.6% three-point shooter on 6.8 attempts per game. So just right off the bat, the shooting jumps off the page. He's 6'7". He's long, 200 pounds. He can play multiple different positions, but it's the shooting. He's going to be another guy that Darren DeVries can add to pretty much play multiple different positions, whether it's the front court, whether it's on the wing, and he can shoot the ball. I guess I'll just start there. How important and impactful and how big has the shooting kind of renaissance been? Of course, no games have been played, but Indiana figures that they'll be able to shoot the ball much better from three next season.
I mean, it's huge. You know, when you look at the Mike Woodson era, there was a lot of things that fans weren't happy with. And I think number one on that list was probably shooting from deep. And so I'm not saying that Darren DeVries is doing this just to appease the fans because he's trying to win games first and foremost. And you do that with shooting the basketball. We look at how basketball as a whole has kind of shifted. You know, you talk about the Steph Currys, the James Hardens of the NBA ranks, but it's trickled down into college. And big-time shooters win big-time games. And the saying goes, guards win in March. And I think that's what Darren DeVries is going for because he is stacking guards he is stacking guards that can shoot the ball and shoot it well. And, you know, starting lineups and all that are yet to be decided. That's a long ways away. No matter if Dorn is a starter or a bench guy, he's going to be an impactful player for the Hoosiers because shooting travels, and if you can make threes, you're going to play. And I still think it's a great pickup. And as I've said a couple times already, you can never have too many shooters, and that is kind of the main thing with this commitment. That's the main thing to focus on here.
Yeah, again, a fantastic shooter is Dorn, an efficient shooter on high volume. He had double-figure performances in 22 games this past season, a consistent scorer as well. He had 6 20-point performances. He was actually an all-CAA freshman team honoree his first year at Elon. I'm curious. We've mentioned the guards. We've mentioned the backcourt. This is a now crowded backcourt that the Hoosiers have. This is another guy that is going to be thrown in the mix with Connor Enright, Sam Houston State transfer Lamar Wilkerson, Josiah Miles, Peyton Connerway, Jason Drake. There's a lot of guards in this backcourt already, and there's still more to be filled out on this roster. But I think that Dorne is a little bit different, Colin, because he's 6'7". He's 200 pounds. He's not an elite playmaker, but he's a guy that can put the ball on the floor. He can finish over smaller guys. He's shifty enough to get around bigger guys. So I think he's got a little bit of positional size. 6'7", 200 pounds again, can play the wing. So do you think that factors into what role he may be able to see in his fit maybe with this Indiana offense? Because he's not Peyton Connerway size or Jason Drake size. He's not 6'2", 6'3". He's bigger than Lamar Wilkerson. Height-wise, he's pretty much Tucker DeVries' height. Just obviously not got the pounds that Tucker DeVries has, not as big and bulky. But he's got an opportunity to fit into a little bit of a unique role this upcoming season with Indiana because, again, 6'7", but has guard-like skills. Where do you think he fits in the best with Indiana's current roster the way it is, Colin?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a huge part of it. 6'7" at the guard position, obviously – shooting guard is probably he'll slot in. He's not necessarily going to run the point, and so that's still big. That's still a big guy for college to play the guard position at 6'7". And so, like you said, he might play a lot of the wing. And so, like last year, you saw with Mackenzie Mbako, he was technically a forward, but he played a lot on the wing. And then Tucker DeVries, like you mentioned, can play guard and can play forward on the wing. And so, I think we get so hung up on the positions. And like I said, you've seen a lot of guard technically commitments, but you're just trying to get players who can play and can play well. And so obviously DeVries saw something in him. You go back to the shooting, that's probably what it was. But, when you're that big at 6'7", you use your athleticism. And in a conference like the Big Ten, size and athleticism are two of the biggest things. And at that size, especially for his position, he certainly has that. And so that's also, in addition to the shooting, what I would look for. And starting or not starting, I think he'll be impactful. But obviously, we still have a long way to go to see how the rest of the roster shakes out. And so that's kind of where his role will be decided once they have a whole roster. But it is starting to fill out quick. You talked about the other guards like Miles and like Jason Drake. The roster is filling up fast. And so it might not be too long until you have a full picture of what those roles will be.
And another important thing to add, a note to add about Indiana's newest commitment in Dorne, he has 2 years of eligibility left. So he joins the likes of Josiah Miles and Jason Drake and Trent Sisley that won't be out of eligibility following this next upcoming season. So that's another big thing as well. He has that extra year of eligibility. And of course, Indiana still a long way away from filling out this roster. The large topics, the hot topics of discussion lately have been revolving around the center position, but Indiana goes out again and lands yet another guard in Elon transfer Nick Dorn, who I agree with you, Colin, will probably play more on the wing, maybe as a 3, even in a small ball lineup, potentially the 4. And I do want to add, I think that there's some defensive upside with Dorn. He's 6'7", again, 200 pounds. It's hard to teach that. You can't teach, obviously, that size, the 6'7", 200 pounds. You can't teach that on the defensive end of the floor. So if he's able to be quick enough to stay in front of guards, he's got really long arms. He's got the frame to be a really good defender. So only time will tell if he's able to not only do what he does offensively and knock down shots, but also play well on the defensive end of the floor as well. Well, that's going to wrap up this breaking news edition of Talkin Bout The Hoosiers, brought to you by thehoosier.com. You can head over to thehoosier.com on 3 to check out all the latest news, not only surrounding Indiana basketball, but surrounding Indiana football and Indiana baseball as well. We've got you covered over there with breaking news, with fantastic stories to stay up to date on all the latest happenings around the transfer portal for both football and basketball, because it's portal season for both of those two teams right now. We've got you covered over at the Hoosier on 3. Obviously, you can head over to our socials as well to stay up to date and never miss anything, including more podcasts like this, which can be found on the Hoosier on 3 YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notification as well so you never miss another breaking news podcast. Again, Nick Dorn commits to Indiana out of Elon. This has been another episode of Talkin Bout The Hoosiers. Thanks so much for joining us.